Hey guys, so let's talk about something that, most people these days really don't care about, and that is radios. Yesterday I went to the thrift store, found this. I always have a hard time passing by a radio. Um, these units here, $7, very cheap, but the reason why I have such a fixation with radios is because I'm Gen X. In my generation, we grew up with radios. It's a symbol of my childhood. It's really a symbol of times, simpler times, I guess. When there was no internet. When I grew up in the 90s and the 80s, there was no internet, believe it or not. And for those of us who grew up in that era, we got a lot of our entertainment from radios, simple units like this. A little unit like this with battery, you could go anywhere and listen to the latest, songs, whether it's pop music or whatever. And there were a lot more range in channels than what you would find on the radio these days. There were so many channels, and also there were more bands. You know, um, Now it's mostly AM and FM, but back in the day, we had FM, we had AM, we had MW, which is medium wave, we had SW, which is the short wave bands. So we had all kinds of different bands, and within each band, you would actually find a lot of stations from different parts of the world. And where I grew up in Ghana, um, I had a tiny little radio, and with that, I could actually get channels from all over the world, whether it was in Europe or Asia, a bunch of Soviet Union, back in the day, Soviet Union, um, channels like Russian channels and stuff. Um, there was a particular season in Ghana where I grew up, um, where you could get more radio stations from all over the world, and that was called the Harmattan season, when the winds of the desert blew over Ghana. And during that season, the reception was a lot more. You could get channels from all over the world. I always look forward to the Harmattan season because the reception was much more powerful. And radios were a symbol of freedom and a symbol of the times for us. As a musician myself, I know that the radio was also a channel for musicians. Um, that's where most of the music discovery happened, was on the radio stations, whereas now it happens on streaming media or on internet platforms, social media like TikTok. Um, the radio was the main discovery place for music, and it paid a lot more for musicians because they had the royalty payments whenever their songs were played on the radio. Nowadays, with streaming media, they only get a tiny fraction of a cent when their songs are streamed. And it does not help to support the arts. So I certainly do have a longing for times when physical media and also on air media like the radio would become more fashionable again. And if you notice, a lot of the songs that you hear these days are all they all sound the same, to be honest. And the reason why they all sound the same is they are all made to be catchy and to attract people, um, who are streaming, the short attention spans of folks who are just streaming songs and have an abundance of songs available that they could just switch from this or that to that. So the songs are made to catch your attention and keep your attention, and so they tend to be a lot more dramatic, and you know um, whereas back in the day, because of the radio, you had to be patient and you had to wait for the next song. You actually had to be patient and sit and listen, actually listen to the song, rather than press next and just skip the song. And so it developed more a deeper connection, I guess, a deeper connection. And the artists were also a bit more deeper, because to be able to get to the radio, to get radio play for your music, it had to be really good. Obviously, there were other systems back in the day, like payola and things, that would influence airplay as well. But for the most part, the songs that ended up on the radio were usually of a higher quality. And you can tell from the 90s, music from the 90s and music from the 80s and the 70s, even, you can tell that they had a certain quality to them. And they were also quite diverse in their sound and in the way, the creativity involved. Whereas nowadays, you put one pop song, it sounds like that pop song, it sounds like that pop song. The artists all sound pretty much the same. I mean, that's an exaggeration, obviously, but they mostly sound the same. But a radio like this really got me thinking about all these things, and it's so easy to just keep riding with, with the status quo and think that things are getting better. But I don't think things are really getting better. I think we are in a place, in a state where technology is is not getting better. It may be getting faster, but I don't think it's getting better. And for folks like myself who are really into vintage equipment and vintage technology, I think that they really had a place where they would keep you not just entertained, but also keep you involved in the entertainment. And that's what I love about our time period, things that we grew up with.